Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to our podcast, Going In with Willie and Iz. My name is Iz,
My name is Willie.
and we are two brothers from different mothers, of course, as you can see. And we are here to just have some discussions about topics that are happening right now. No, go
Yeah,
ahead.
we just want to talk, you know. So if we could just talk, and I think that's what we're missing
Yeah,
in our society today, listening, asking questions, and seeing where your mind is, seeing what you think about today's environment.
yeah. What does going in mean though? What are we talking about going in? Because this is a
So we're
top.
going in because we're going in hard. We want to pull back the curtain and ask the questions that's not being asked. Talking to you about things that maybe you don't have any kind of nobody has asked you about it, or you maybe don't talk to people like you and I,
Hmm.
and you just assume. So we want to just pull back the curtain, get your feelings, see what it is that you are for and you are against, and why you are for this and why you're against it. Just give us your opinion,
Yeah,
and that way we can kind of start a decent conversation.
and it's different perspective. We come from different backgrounds, different perspective, and we know that watching and listening, you guys have your own perspective. So what we want to do is just give you our perspective, and later on maybe open it up to questions and you can ask us something, and then we can turn around and regurgitate or let you know what it is that what we feel and why we feel the way we feel on certain topics. So going in to me means um, scratching the surface, but getting in a little further. We hear
Yeah,
we hear stuff on the TV, and then we listen to it, and we take it for that's gospel. But what we should be doing is actually reading up on it. Even though it's not what we do, what we believe, we should look at the opposing side to make an educated decision.
exactly. You know what? We're not saying we're right and saying you're wrong or you're wrong and we're right.
Hmm.
We're just trying to find that medium, that balance,
Yeah.
to see if we can't progress. Because me personally, I'm thinking, man, what are we doing as a nation? Because at this very moment, I never seen the rest of the world laugh at us as much as they're laughing at us now.
Yeah.
Especially when we projecting this free democracy. We're the big bad United States. We are like 4% of the world population. We're probably the richest country uh, on the planet, but we're doing things just ass backwards. Things that we should be past now.
Hmm.
I often ask people, so what does MAGA mean if you're talking about making America great again? Where do you start at? What was bad now that make you think if we start and go back to the era you said was great? Nobody never tell me what that area is. Nobody tell me uh, why was it? Why are we not great? Because quite frankly, I think we're great right now,
Yeah.
even though with all the ills that's going on.
Yeah.
I still think we're great.
Well, I think in 2016, for me, and what I remember 2016, and I remember it being, I think it was a scare tactic, really, and it was
Yeah,
geared towards to white America, talking about um, be careful. These people, other than you, the white people that he was talking to, are coming. And then when he talks about our country, what he means by that, and even now in 2020, when you hear him discuss those states, blue states, there's divisive language, and he's been using divisive language since he came down that elevator, in my opinion. But what I think what made make America great again, he's talking about a time, Laura or Ozzie Harriet, Leave It to Beaver days, all those days where, you know, in his opinion, it was better, and that's what he wanted to go back to. But that's what I believe.
yeah, because you know what? In his opinion, and if you really look at his opinion, say if we use Ozzie and Harriet as the narrative. But Harriet, she was a housewife. She just made sure the lunch was done. She made sure supper was on the table at a certain time, kept the house clean, watched the boys. She had no voice in any kind of opinion about what's going on in the world. And the dad would come home, throw his briefcase down, make sure dinner is done, ask the boys what kind of day they had, maybe. And that was pretty it. But but in reality, when you look at those days, look how women was marginalized.
Hmm.
Look how they were not even a voice.
Hmm.
Uh, my era when I grew up, it was just like especially when I hear them talking about, oh, we got to protect the suburbs. And I'm going like, what are you talking about? The suburbs? You and I live in the suburbs.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking
Contrary to
at,
popular belief.
yeah, we and it's so sad
Yeah.
how just that terminology. My granddaughter was saying like, oh, granddad, you know what? We was walking through the neighborhood and we was talking about the suburbs and stuff like that. And she said like, but we live in a suburb. I said, you live in a suburb. Like in the suburbs have changed from the days when I
Yeah.
came up. They really was a suburb.
Yeah.
You didn't go to suburb. You weren't
Yeah.
allowed to live there. It didn't matter what kind of money you made.
Yeah.
You only could live in this section of the town.
Yeah.
But people have gone past that, and they have bought into the fear tactic again.
Yeah.
And these guys are sitting here listening to what this guy is saying. You know what reminds me when he said the suburbs. I recall when Don Shula was auditioning for the New Jersey General,
Mm-hmm.
and Donald Trump, that was his team, and he was saying like, yeah, you can come and be the coach here, and I'll pay you X amount of dollars,
Mm-hmm.
and he just come off of a Super Bowl undefeated, and he said, wow, you gonna pay me that much? I'll be able to live in the neighborhood with you. He's like, no, you can't be living in my neighborhood. You work for me.
Yeah.
And that's his mentality. And the people that has fallen prey to what he's saying, they think he's really talking about them.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's so far from the truth.
Yeah. It's
Right now
frustrating.
they're thinking about so right now they're thinking about like, oh, in 2042, the demographics is going to change. It's going to be more black and brown people
Mm-hmm.
and
That's
Asians or
2042.
whatever. Yeah, and it's 2 decades away, but it's not a long period
Yeah.
of time. But then
No, and
I'm
it's
reading
scared,
where
and he scared him, and he scares him. He's trying to scare him
and it's
now.
terrible.
He tries to scare him. And how
They
come? And
scare them.
why did he get those people? Those two people, that married couple that were out there with the guns. I'm not opposed to guns. Don't get
Yeah,
me wrong. I'm not saying if I do or don't have any, but why? Why does he prop them up when they were out there with their guns and there was some brown and black people outside protesting? You know, it's
it's
just a
crazy.
scare tactic. They're coming for you. It's the same rhetoric from 2016 to 2020. Nothing's changed. And this is an
Nothing.
election year. You hear about this still. He was talking about indicting Barack Obama for wiretapping. He called it the greatest crime in U.S. history. It's not the greatest crime in U.S. history.
No,
No,
not even close.
no.
It's amazing. And getting back to the 2042, here's a statistic that I've read. They were saying even in 2042, and if even the black and brown people are the dominant race, it would take a the, it would take a black person 238 years just to equate in economics compared to a white
Mm-hmm.
family. And it would take a Latino 84 years to get where they are today. And so, it's kind of funny. I'm thinking like,
Yeah.
dude, 283 years, like, what the hell are you talking about? Not only that, I look at it like the 1%ers. It's only 1% of them, but they
Mm-hmm.
got all the finance.
Yeah. Well,
They
that's
can
what.
go and do whatever they
And
want.
they control the messaging, and that's what it get
Yeah,
to get back to the whole have and have nots. When it comes to the poor, white, brown, whoever, just as long as you're poor, the socioeconomic status of those people, and the messaging to them is like, hey, you're one of me. Be careful with them. Those people over there are bad for you because they're out to get you. Meanwhile, these halves have had power forever, and I'm not saying right or left, Democrat, Republican. They're both bad.
yeah, they all the same to me.
But when it comes down to it, how many times are you gonna fall for that old okey doke when it comes down to, well, listen to me, I'm gonna help you out. Listen to me, I'm gonna help you out. They're not gonna help you out. It's a matter of, what I got to do for myself, and I got to see what's the candidates. One is a little better than the other, usually, not always, usually. So you got to kind of roll with that. And so, as opposed to hearing them say, "Vote for me because they're bad for you."
Yeah,
What did Trump say? Well, come on, black people, what do you got to lose? Remember that?
really. And,
So I'm
and,
gonna
if,
ask
and,
you. I'm gonna ask you. What did you have to lose?
and I'm saying you got everything to lose.
Mm-hmm.
You got everything to lose like you always had everything to lose. It's just like when you look, for me personally, when I look at the Democrat and the Republican Party, I see a bunch of people that's always going to come and get in your face when it's election day.
Mm-hmm.
They're always going to show up at your churches. I used to really piss them off. And I was saying, like, why is it just not coming like in November? This church has been here all the time. I never seen you come here. And then I also get angry at the people that pop them up and make them think, oh, they're going to really do good for us. They're not going to do everything that I have accomplished personally was just from hard work and knocking down doors and standing up for my rights.
Mm-hmm.
I had to knock down barriers from policy of redlining. You got to knock down policies in jobs. Right today, women are still getting 80 cents on the dollar
Mm-hmm.
less than a white person,
Yeah.
a white male, a man, period. So we got so much injustice going on that they keep us bickering and fighting amongst us, fighting for the little.
Crumbs.
We just getting crumbs.
We're getting crumbs off the
Everybody's
table.
getting
Mm-hmm.
crumbs.
We don't come to
Yeah.
eat. We don't come to eat. We come to get the crumbs. We're not invited to the table, but we're out there fight. We're all fighting each other for these crumbs that are falling off of the haves plates and that table. So, Willie, let me ask you this: coming into this first episode, we had just a really brief conversation about where we wanted to go with this podcast. And one of the first topics we said was, let's talk about what we can do and what people can do out there to kind of understand the other person. And we had a conversation about being sympathetic and being empathetic to somebody that's different than you. So let's talk a little bit about that, the sympathy versus the empathy. What do you think about?
But you know what? I think those two words have people kind of confused because they don't really understand empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Empathy is just like, you know what? Say if your parents die and that person still have their parents, and so they're feeling sad because of your loss, and they're kind of like open themselves up and just showing the human side of your suffering. They don't feel your pain because they haven't had that pain yet, but they're trying to understand what you're going through. If you get shot in the leg and somebody say like, "Wow, man, I really hate you got shot and I feel for you," but they still didn't get shot.
Mm-hmm.
They still don't feel that pain. But if you could understand that pain and see where they're coming from, you have a better understanding of the things you have to overcome to get where you are. People don't want to really, in America, for some reason, they don't want to talk about just this past 2 or 3 weeks when Trump was saying we don't want to talk about the 1619 project.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why wouldn't you want? No, we don't want to talk about that because then we will be distorting history and be like he told Bob Woodward. Don't be drinking that Kool-Aid. Don't be feeling sorry for him. Like, and he has built up a group of people thinking like if you have empathy for them, then you're going to give away to some of the progress that you've made. And it has nothing to do with it. And for me personally, being black, I don't want anybody's sympathy. I don't want you to feel sorry for me because I was born with dark skin. I don't want you to feel sorry for me because I have to do all these things. You just need to understand the barriers I had to go through, and maybe you would curtail some of your feelings and take a second look at it. When uh, right now, just like you got a son, you got daughters. Your son you got to give your son that talk what to do if you get pulled over by a policeman. You must have that talk with him because if you don't, and he goes there thinking he's just like anybody else, he's going to find out real quickly that you're not. And so those are the things that we have more empathy, have a little bit more humility about ourselves. We could go a long way. It's not going to solve all the problems, but at least you can have that conversation. I look at people. I know about yourself. I very seldom. I could probably count the number of white people I really hang out with. It's just like something that you just don't do. For whatever reason, I have no idea. I asked this young man last year, and we were just having a general conversation. And I always have this one story that I go to when I was coming up, and I was the first black to go to an all-white school. I ran across this one guy, and I liked him because he just asked questions. So he was saying like, so what should I call you? And I was going, what do you mean? What should you call it? Should I call you colored? Should I call you Negro? I was like, no, you need to call me by my name.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, and so, but that started the dialogue. And to this day, he and I are still good friends. You know, it's just like I we never had anything in common other than treat each other like a human being.
He wanted to
He
understand.
didn't do nothing. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't have. He never done it. I'm thinking this guy wouldn't even do half the stuff I did.
Mm-hmm.
I know he would. You know, this guy we never even drank a beer together. You know, but he respected me. I respected
Yeah.
him, and that's all it is. I feel sometimes that the white race thing will I got to go through this, jump through a lot of hoops. I don't want them to think you know, I'm trying to be like them. I want you to be yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Just be you.
Just be you. You don't have to be doing nothing special. You and I, look how long we have known each other.
Mm-hmm.
You've been you, and I've been me.
Yep.
It just,
That's
it
it.
just is.
Mm-hmm.
It's no rocket science. It's nothing hard about this.
Just
Uh,
mutual respect. How understand. And just in conversations with you, we have a lot of good conversations, and I like the stories that that you come up with and you tell about you coming up in the South in those times, and by wanting to learn me, I'm speaking for myself now. I feel more enlightened. You know what I mean? I grew up here. I'm a transplant in Southern California. I've been here, and this is what I know. But I've
yeah,
seen police treat me a certain way. Put back of a car. Don't even let me get in. Slam the door on my leg. Stuff, just little things like that. But just really, it's uncalled for. I wasn't under arrest. They wanted to talk to a couple of friends of mine, so they pulled one over here. I was over here. So they want to talk to him, so they put me in the car, but kind of did that little extra stuff. But anyways, but
those are the
you have to
things.
want to understand the other person, and if you don't want to understand the person, then what you're doing is you're handicapping yourself, because progress isn't going to progress without you wanting to.
Yeah, and then you become complicit. If you think you're being silent and don't want to say anything, then you're part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't have an uncle or aunt or somebody that's spurring out racist stuff, and you don't say anything about it.
Yeah,
Just saying like, oh,
call them out.
it's just him doing his stuff. He's wrong, and you need to call him up on those things,
Yeah.
because if you don't, then you're gonna go around and you're gonna thinking that, well, you know what, it's acceptable.
Yeah.
It's not acceptable until you let it be acceptable.
Yeah.
So when I look at with the empathy and sympathy, they get these words so conflicted.
Mm-hmm.
Just take for instance like refunding and defunding.
Mm-hmm.
Look how they had twisted those words around
Mm-hmm.
and make people think, oh, they're trying to defund the police department.
Mm-hmm.
No, they need to refund it, because if you're having a crisis, take for instance when somebody called paramedics and for any kind of incident. You don't need to have police that they call and tell you somebody's having a stroke. You don't need a cop to come for that. They're not doctors. If you having somebody that having some kind of mental breakdown, I think the cops would come and stand at a certain distance.
Yeah.
But that just heightens the situation when you bring a cop into it, when you should get somebody with some mental experience talking to these people. Those are the things that need to be refunded and put them into the areas that need
Yeah.
a lot of attention to. Right now, we have more people in jail than any other country in the world. That makes no sense. Our prison population will rank fifth in the world as far as the number of people. 2 million people. Come on,
Yeah.
man, 2 million people.
Yeah.
And look how many of them are really hardened criminals.
Mm-hmm.
Look at our bail system. I've seen people staying in jail for a year waiting on a court date because they couldn't pay $200 to get out on bail.
Mm-hmm.
And then they lose everything. So now you don't even have any credibility. You don't have a job.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a job. So these are some of the things our policy need to be reworked. When they talk about amendments,
Mhm.
you know, you wrote it into law. You said these are amendments. You didn't say these are permanent rules.
Yeah,
They
the
are amendments.
Constitution.
So, yeah, so they need to be amended.
Yeah.
We in our job we amend this stuff all the
Oh
time.
yeah.
Last year was good. This year is not.
And I think just the for the way I understand the defunding, it's not defunding meaning take all of it away. When you defund
No.
something means you're gonna I'm funding you at 100%. When I
Yeah,
defund you,
exactly.
oh, I can defund you at 50%. It doesn't mean I'm gonna take you down all the way. So say they defund it to 80%, for an example. If they defund it 80%, that 20% difference is not going to go towards the police department for whatever. They're going to shift that funds into to maybe homeless outreach, maybe to
Yeah,
psychiatric evaluations in support of the police when they go out. So what they were talking about, and I think that was hijacked, like you said, and it was hijacked and it was giving another meaning by, again, the corporate powers and the people at the top who have the money to push out that message. You know, when the people who actually created it try to tell you, no, this is what it means, it was too late because they took it and ran with it, put millions of dollars behind it, behind that kind of messaging, talking about these people are anti-police. No, they're not anti-police. They want to look at the whole systemic racism that is um, in different agencies, not just the police department. It's a big bureaucracy, big organizations, a department like that. You cannot say there is not systemic racism in there just by sheer numbers. There is, you know,
yeah,
maybe is a small, minute, but there is some systemic racism in there, and you can look at the numbers that you know with the arrests, and just look at it, and you'll be able to see the numbers don't lie, right? But I
yeah.
think that it was hijacked, and I think that the BLM movement and the call for to defund the police was to shift funding from police into other areas, and to make it more beneficial for the community. That's how I
Yeah,
understood this defunding
yeah,
argument.
Boys and Girls Club, after school program, all kind of mentoring programs that can be had.
Hmm.
Because you look up at these kids don't have anyone to
Yeah,
talk to. You know,
yeah,
they don't even believe in themselves. When you started hearing young people saying like, you know, I expect to be dead at 21.
mm,
I mean, like, what is 21?
yeah,
You're like that's your goal. That you think you're going to be dead at 21
yeah,
because you don't have the necessary resources so these kids can do stuff. And defunding the police and refunding it, first of all, it's really a slap in the face to say we have to teach our police sensitivity training. Are you serious? I mean, like, really? So so you have a police officer that don't understand all the duties of his job in serving the people.
hmm,
So you're gonna tell me you got to have a talk with them and say, well, you don't need to be doing this. I mean, do you have to micromanage everything a person does? And secondly, why are you hiring people that's been a role in the Breonna
yeah,
Taylor case?
yeah,
The guy was fired in Lexington. Why would you hire him in Louisville? You think he's going to be better because he's in a larger population? Tamar Rice, same thing. They need to track bad cops, and I always get really kind of irritated when I hear people saying like, "Well, all cops are not bad." Well, why in the hell ain't good cops stepping up and talking about the bad ones?
yep,
You know,
weeding them out.
if you yeah, if you bad, if you was on the job, you would have people going behind your back and saying, you know what, these dudes,
Hmm.
well, he ain't doing his job. He doing
Yeah,
this, he doing that. And then they bring it to your attention. But when you don't say a word, just watch it happen and just say like, well, you know what, these are my fellow officers. No, they're not. They're crooks. They got
yeah,
a bunch of cops right now in East LA that
yeah,
belong to some
hmm,
gang. That is crazy.
hmm, yeah.
So we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, and there,
And
and again, some of that defunding that I was talking about earlier, some of it was to put a national register of a police to track the police and when they are let go and why they were let go, so other departments can look at it and say, you know what, here, this person may not be the right fit
yeah,
for us for whatever reason.
not
So
a
yeah,
good
I think
fit.
that's part of the refunding of the system.
So we have a lot of policies that needs to be changed,
Hmm.
and I'm not just talking about I know a lot of people just gonna go vote because it's a presidential election.
Yeah.
Man, you got to start voting in those cities
Hmm.
and counties and small government
Judges.
elections.
Yep.
So that's where it starts. And you know, you know what I was reading this thing where it was talking about reparation because they brought that up. They want to start thinking about
Hmm.
Gavin Newsom saying
Yeah.
reparation. And in our country, doing as far as like giving reparation to the slave, they didn't give reparation to the slave. First, they promised them 40 acres and a mule. You
Hmm.
didn't get that.
Hmm.
And then when they did have reparation, they gave it to the slave owners.
Mm.
And those slave owners benefited from first from free labor. Then they got paid for having slaves. And then they went parlayed their racist ways into being mayors and governors and senators. So how was it going to ever change? Just because you change your position,
Yeah.
but their mindset is still the same. You
Hmm.
read about I just read about a sheriff in some parts of Tennessee. This guy was just saying like niggas need to be locked up. If they ain't locked up, they need to be killed. We ain't killed enough of them. How are you the sheriff? How
Man,
can you be the sheriff of any time anywhere? Not even a dog catcher.
yep. No.
We have so many of those guys, and they just let them go.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's
and
there's no
and
place
this
for it.
is why we need to have talk. This is why when empathy, because a lot of people don't understand because they never talk to anyone.
Yeah.
They just assume. Uh, I bet you right now, if you went out and done a survey and asked just say 30% of the white population, what kind of communication do you discuss about racial inequality in your home to your kids? Do you guys even have that discussion?
Hmm.
And I would not be surprised if 70 to 80 or 90% of them say like we never talk about that.
Yeah. No,
We
they
talk
don't.
about the stock market.
And then they hear about their families and those same uncles and aunts that you're talking about, grandpa, whatever, grandma. And they're looking and they're saying these things, and you as a parent are not calling them out. These kids looking and they're absorbing all that stuff. So when they go out to
Exactly.
school and wonder why they saying all these words to these other kids, badass kids out there, and then they get smacked around and beat up, and then they start, and then
Yeah.
they feel a certain way about a certain population because of the way they were raised.
Yeah.
Raise them the right
I,
way from the beginning, and you'll have functional members
it,
of society.
yeah. I've talked to way too many kids here in the last couple of years
Mm,
that's been all just addicted.
yeah.
And I have heart to heart conversation with them. They young too, and I want like and they'll be telling me about what part of the country they come from. I said, yeah, how's that? Wouldn't be good for you. He said, like my granddad is racist as hell. I'm like, holy shit, like I'm looking at this kid thinking like his granddad is probably the same age as me. So how's it gonna change
Yeah.
if you just
No.
keep handing down that same conversation? And what are you so insecure about?
Yeah.
Uh, I had this conversation when I first got to the county back in the day, and we was in a big meeting, and our instructor was saying like, well, you can't give people we was talking about insecure people, insecurity period, and they said, well, you can't give you when if people are insecure, there's nothing you can do about it. So because you can't help them and you can't give them any kind of security. So I said like, but you can give people love, right? I mean, show me what does love look like,
Hmm.
but how you give it? It's the same. Those are just words that you have bought into that
Hmm.
to that whole dynamic and just saying what you can and can't do. When if you say you can't do it, then you already defeated
Yeah.
because you
You
can
limit
inspire someone to get out of being secure,
you limit yourself.
insecure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do a lot of things to get people out of their being bashful and speaking up for themselves. So all of that stuff to me is just like, no, I don't believe that.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, and then
you heard,
again, and when it comes down to it, and we talked about the sympathy and the empathy. It's your choice if you want to be. Sympathy is something like you talked about. It's something that you know. If you have somebody pass away, you sympathize with them and you can relate. But if you can't, but you still want to understand and you want to seek to understand and you want to grow, as a person. What you are is you're empathetic and trying to understand what it is. Look up stuff, have conversations with people that look different than you, because you have to understand the only way we're going to get better as a society and as a people and as a country is to come together. This is probably, in my lifetime, the worst place as far as division. I've lost
I've
friends
ever seen.
within the last 4 years. I've lost friends, people I don't follow anymore, and it's it just gets to a point where you just can't take it no more because you're just so ignorant, and then you try to
Yeah, you don't want to
have a
argue with them
conversation.
anymore.
Yeah, you just don't want to
Yeah.
waste your time. Don't waste your. I don't want to waste my time. You say what you want. I respect you, and I understand you want to believe, and you, as a country, we have that right to believe how we want to believe. But don't come in infiltrating my feed, you know, and
No.
then
If you think you're right, you're right.
yeah, because
But
you
that
try to
don't
have those
mean,
conversations, but they
yeah,
don't want to listen. If they don't want to listen, I'm not wasting my time with you. I want
yeah,
to
I'm
have
not.
conversations with people that want to listen and want to understand how they can live better themselves. Because I'm here to listen to you.
Yeah, because you know what? That's why I like what Bruce Lee said. Be like water.
Hmm.
You got to be like water, man. You got to be able to feel any kind of base that you put into. Because look at water. It's hard. It's soft.
Yeah.
It's refreshing.
Steam.
It can flood you out.
Hmm.
Like it can bust a rock.
Yeah.
So when I see people like that and they just get so argumentative and just go into a rage, blood pressure, man, I'm not going to let my blood pressure going up and mess around and have some kind of cardiac arrest
Yeah.
because I'm talking to somebody that's not going to ever change and this is the way they believe.
Hmm.
If that's the way you believe, you think you're right, I'm thinking you're right, but I don't believe that. I don't feel that way. And if you ask me, I'll tell you why I don't. We need to change. I don't even care if we just get back to where we were in 2012. Like, but this 2020, just 2016 and 2020 have just been bad 4 years. It actually showed you how far we gotta go.
Yeah. And I can't
That's
wait.
what's
I
so
can't wait
sad
to.
that
I
I
can't
thought we
wait to
would.
look back in 2020 and say, how they say hindsight's 2020. I can't wait to put hindsight behind
Yeah,
me.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Man, 2020 can just go.
Yeah.
It's just that way. Next week, watch how the dynamic in this election is going to go. Next week, you're going to start seeing things that you never thought you would see before. We were going to be like 3 weeks out, and things are going to really get heated. And this is going to be the deciding factor for this country. Do we want to go forward or do we want to go backwards?
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
I think that's what we're going to see.
Yeah, and mine's along the same lines. I think that there's going to be an October surprise. You heard rumblings about they were trying to arrest people, and they talk about Hillary's emails again. I think Russia has one more trick up its sleeve. I'm not sure what that is, but they're going to come out with something.
Yeah.
All eyes are looking at them, but by this time next week when we talk, we're going to have a conversation and see what's up. So, all right, man, that's good for
See
the
how
show.
strong we were.
What's that?
It's a good show, bro.
Yep. So
I said this is a good show right here.
Yep. So
Peace out to everyone.
We'll
Stay
holler
woke.
at you all next time. What we always say, Fetty, fuck everybody.
And do you?